For episode 86 of the Rental Roundtable, we had on Evan Reed. He's the head of product at Quinn. As you know, if you've listened to the podcast before, I typically never really talk about my day job, which is the CEO of Quipli. We're an equipment rental software and make it focus on our guests in the industry. However, today we felt like this episode and this product that Evan's been building is so powerful that it is industry changing that we did want to talk about it today. We're talking about Quinn. Quinn is the first agentic platform in the equipment rental space that grows revenue for rental companies. So what does that mean? Well, every time a customer calls you, you can have a voice agent answer that call, book the rental, log notes on your customer, right? Every time a customer calls, you can have a misrental agent that automatically logs misrentals. You can have a customer analyst agent. So every time you look at your customers, you have thousands of customers, it can start to predict customers that are likely to churn based on certain behavior. We have a prospecting agent. So every time a permit is pulled in your area, an agent can go scrape the internet and send your team a lead in seconds ahead of your competition to generate new leads and new business for your rental company. So Evan is building Quinn. It's now publicly available. You can see it at getquinn, QUINN.ai. We'll be at the ARA show talking about it. We think it is such a game-changing platform in the rental space. We did want to highlight it as our coverage of what's happening in the rental industry. So if you want to learn more about Quinn and how agents are driving revenue for rental companies today, this is all real stuff happening today. I think you'll enjoy this episode. All right, everyone, welcome to the Rental Roundtable, episode number 86. We've got on Evan Reed. He's the head of product at Quinn, a leading AI product in the equipment rental space. Evan, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me back, Kyle. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I love equipment rental and I love AI, and I'm very excited to talk about this. I mean, full disclosure, what we're talking about today is a Quipli product, Quinn, which is now publicly available. Is a agent that drives revenue for rental companies. There's been amazing demand. We've talked about AI many times on the show here, and it is real. It is happening today. It is happening with rental companies in the U.S. and many states, and all over U.S. and Canada. It is a game changer, and we're going to talk about that today. So, if you're interested in AI and how it's already being used in rental companies today to drive revenue, this is the episode for you. So, uh, first question, Evan. Your background here. You are the head of product at Quinn, building Quinn. What is Quinn? How did you get the name Quinn? What are we talking about? What is Quinn?
Quinn's a play on the QUI from equipment and part of the Quipli family of products now, you could say. We think of Quinn as more of a human than a software product. So that's why it's got a human name. Quinn is the engine that's going to help rental companies drive more revenue now and in the future. So it's a different way of working with technology, not a system of record where you're typing in data and logging things that you've done, but more of a observability platform where you're actually seeing what Quinn is doing in your business to help you generate more revenue. So we're excited to, bring a new way of working with technology to the world and specifically with equipment rental.
A lot of people talk about AI. AI is real. It is transformational. It is here to stay. The word Quinn, right? QUI from equipment rental, and Quinn is a person's name. So we think about AI as a person, right? Doing labor, doing work within a rental company that rental companies don't have time to do, that they're not good at. It's a very different technology, right? This isn't just another rental software, ERP, database and workflows. This feels very different. This is different than we've ever experienced before.
Yeah, and it's going to take a bit of a learning curve, I think, for all of us to get used to working with software in this way. But, in the past, you've had these legacy, call them rental softwares, where you're putting in orders, you're looking at your inventory. You, the person, are manually pushing buttons and typing in data into your software. And Quinn works the exact opposite because we think AI shouldn't replace things that humans are good at and humans should be doing, but AI should replace the parts of the business that is busy work, things that you don't have time to do or things that you don't want to do. And so a lot of that is things like data entry and maintaining the CRM and doing research. Um, all of these things, AI is fantastic at and excels at, and that's what we've sort of built into Quinn, sort of this system of action, as you, if you will, into an equipment rental shop where you're actually partnering with your software to affect meaningful change in your business. These are like material outcomes, like revenue increase and profitability increase and operational efficiency, not just having a better software to run your operations from.
Yeah, if you think about rental software in particular, 1980 to 2025, system of record, right? And it's went from server to cloud and better interfaces and e-commerce. But effectively, it's been an underlying database with workflows on top of it designed for rental companies, right? Those days are over. 2026 and beyond, that was system of record. This is system of action. This is your software interacting and doing work. It's alive. It's dynamic. It's not a dead database. It's an alive product. And I think when you hear AI, right, because everyone's talking about AI, every rental company and rental software is using AI. I think it's important to distinguish between two paths, right? Because we have what I would say the Chat GPT wrappers with a W, which you take your data and you
Mhm.
wrap it with Chat GPT to query it, right? And I think that's pretty cool, right? But that is all that really is still underlying database with a different workflow on top, right? That is lowercase AI. Capital AI, what we're talking about are agents, which is a very different thing. The agents can act as a person, act as an employee, and operate in your business. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that difference? Because I think it's important for rental companies listening to this. When a lot of people are talking about AI and rental technology today, I think it's important to distinguish between those two things because all AI is not created equal.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really important distinction. So I think the easiest way I know how to explain it is you think about a tool like ChatGPT or Gemini, any sort of chatbot, AI service, right? It's waiting for you to prompt it. It's doing things when you ask it to do things, and the integration and its ability to actually fully execute a project that you're working on the LLM with is generally pretty limited because it's stuck in this like generative chat like interface. And yeah, you can integrate Chat GPT and Claude and Gemini with different tools that you use, but it's a limited in terms of how autonomous and how deep it can go in actually helping you execute workflows. They also lack like domain knowledge, right? They're not these models are trained on, trillions of inputs, but they don't have the specific knowledge of like your business, your inventory, right? Your customers, your type of market, the number of locations you have, your business hours, things like that. And so you're really limited with how far you can take the execution. Where Quinn and sort of agentic AI is different. It operates with I think the biggest concept shift to change it when you're thinking about this is it has agency. So it has the ability to perceive uh, goals and inputs, make decisions, and actually like act autonomously to achieve a defined outcome that you give it. So instead of you sitting at the computer typing in, prompting, that you wanted to research the latest construction projects in your area, an agentic system could uh, have that as a schedule, do that on a recurring basis, then take it a step further, maybe research the contractor, see what other types of permits they've pulled or other projects that they work on. Look at your inventory, look at where your utilization is the lowest, and then email you a list of top opportunities to go after to increase your utilization. So just right there in that example, we're combining 7 or 8 different types of data, pulling them all into one roof, and then using sort of a master orchestrator right? That has all the context, has your business goals, has your business details, and pull all that in together for you for your team to go and execute on. So that's really what we're talking about. It's almost like a difference between a calculator, right, and a financial advisor. You can get the same outcome. It's just how much work you're going to put in to get to that outcome. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, the ChatGPT has agent mode, right? So you could say, "Hey, I want to go on a trip, book me a flight," sort of thing. It can research different areas. It could be a travel agent. There's, and do stuff for you. What Quinn is that, but hyper focused on equipment rental. It's the smartest equipment rental employee you've ever hired. That's all they do. They can't do equipment dealerships. They don't do, medical stuff. It's very focused on equipment rental. It's been trained on equipment rental. What are some examples of some workflows or agents within Quinn that are driving revenue today? What are some examples that are live today?
Yeah, we have really looked at four like core pillars across the spectrum of like where can we implement AI to help rental shops, and by far the biggest impact that we've seen is on the sales and marketing side. The idea here is you can turn on an agentic system, and then on the other side of that, you actually increase revenue. So, an example of this, Quinn does a lot, but one example of this is going to be, let's say a customer inquiry comes in, right? It's a phone call. Uh, you're closed. It's 7:30 at night. You're at dinner with your family. Nobody's answering. Normally that would go to voicemail, right? And then you follow up with it in the next morning. In this case, say customer inquiry comes in, a call comes in, AI voice receptionist may answer the phone. The voice receptionist has access to your inventory. It has access to your availability. It has access to your ERP booking system. And so the AI has a conversation with the caller, checks your inventory, potentially quotes pricing, creates an opportunity in your system, responds to the customer, so emails and texts them, routes a summary of that to your rep, and also places a rental reservation in your system completely autonomously. And so when you log in the next morning, when you're back on the yard or back in the office, you can see you already have quotes and reservations in the system for your team to follow up on without any intervention from your part. That's one example of how Quinn is actually helping to capture more missed revenue opportunities that they may have gone to a competitor if you didn't answer, and rented with someone else.
And that example you just described is live today with rental companies in the US and
Right.
Canada. Like,
Yes.
so this is not science fiction. This is not us talking about previous episodes. We've talked about where AI is going. What you described is available today for Quinn users. If someone calls in, can see rental rates, can see availability, request the rental that is entered from Quinn into your rental software. The whole thing is booked over the phone with an agent, right? And I totally understand, like, we're not replacing people here during work hours. You still have your best counter staff do it. But if it's a 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night call and the option is go to voicemail or have a reservation booked for you to look at in the morning with a summary of the transcript, like, no brainer, give me that option, right? That's how you can grow rental revenues. You're answering phone calls that you were previously missing.
Well, I think customers also appreciate, being able to uh, have a reservation taken some way or another, right? It's not just leaving a voicemail, but the AI agent, given that it has access to your inventory and your fleet data and all your specs and the types of projects that certain types of equipment may be better suited for. What we found is like customers actually appreciate being able to carry that rental reservation way farther down the process
Yeah.
than just leaving a voicemail.
Yeah.
So it actually can increase customer satisfaction. It has to be done right. It has to be done well. There's got to be a lot of training, a lot of observability,
Yep.
and rolled out in a controlled way. But if you nail those pieces, you actually make a better experience for your customers.
And that's been the challenge with these generic off the shelf platforms, agent platforms. They're not equipment rental specialists. And this nuance really matters. And that's why Quinn is, named the way it is. It's an equipment rental person. That's all Quinn is, right? I think another agent that I like is the missed rental agent. So, in rental software, every rental software, any good rental software should have a missed rental functionality, right? And for being honest, rental companies log less than 100% uh, accuracy, or 100% of the time they log a missed rental. One of the cool features I like with Quinn is every time a phone call or an email comes through, agent, the AI is analyzing that and identifying a missed rental and automatically logging it in your system for you, right? So as you think about fleet purchases at the end of the year or end of the month, you have, instead of 30% of your data, you have 100% of your data fully clean, fully accurate, logging missed rentals. Your team doesn't mess up, right? It's constantly watching, it's constantly learning, it's constantly logging missed rentals, and that, we could talk about a dozen agents we have here today. But another one I like is the second one here is the missed rental agent, where that work that takes 2 minutes and it's not rocket surgery to do, but to be honest, we're all busy. Rental companies are busy. They don't do it perfectly. That's a good use case of an agent doing work that rental companies don't have time to do today.
Don't have time to do exactly. The missed rentals agent is really interesting for a couple of reasons, right? One, it just saves time
Yeah.
from manually logging these missed rentals every time one happens. Uh, but what I just had a conversation with one of our customers this week actually about they're going to take the missed rentals data from Quinn with all the inventory that they may have missed out on renting, plus expected rental revenue from that inventory. And they're exporting that and taking that with them as a shopping list at the ARA show coming up. They realize that, hey, we missed out on $175,000, in annual rental revenue because we're short a few skid steers. Like in that case, they've got the data to back up that if they go and make those fleet purchase decisions, right, they can increase their revenue by at least that amount. And when you have the manual piece, only relying on the manual piece, you're going to miss it. I mean, you get busy, right? Calls come in. You don't have time to log all that stuff sometimes. So they're going to take that as a shopping list with them to the ARA show. Mhm.
There you go. Right. I think the other cool thing with Quinn is like it's constantly learning. So it can log missed rentals for fleet you don't even have, right? And you may identify an opportunity in the market that you never saw. Again, if we're honest, if you're a rental company listening today, ask yourself what percentage of missed rentals do you think your team is logging? I probably best less than 50%, right? And I think with an agent like Quinn, it's 100%. Um, what would be, so we talked about a voice agent, a missed rental agent. What's another agent that Quinn has today that's live with customers in the market?
Yeah, I think another one that has come up, folks really like, is sort of this like analyst agent. So it's we all have heard the old adage, right? It's 10 times less expensive to sell to existing customers than it is to acquire a new one, right? Rental shops get busy. They don't have all the time to do all the deep analysis and data a lot of the times that it takes to catch when maybe a customer is starting to slip or there's a issue, with let's say just simple billing issue, right? And then customer maybe starts looking elsewhere for a rental, or they've slowed down in rental frequency. It's hard to catch that, especially if you have lots of customers. You're a growing rental operation. One of the more powerful agents that Quinn has built into it is sort of this, what we're calling like revenue risk mitigation, right? So
Mhm.
Quinn constantly monitors your customer health, not just from a transaction perspective, but also their communications with you. So Quinn integrates with your phone system, your email, your text, uh, and logs all this communication data that is just kind of right now out in the ether, right? It's not, it's living in somebody's head. Maybe it's living in a CRM or spreadsheet, but it's not being utilized by the full team. Quinn looks at all that relationship data plus your transactions and number of quotes you've opened and is able to score all of your customers and give them sort of a risk factor, right? Where
Yeah.
if a customer has, they used to do on average $1,500 a month in rentals with you, and now they've dropped to, let's say, 900 a month. And maybe last month they had an equipment breakdown and you couldn't get a guy out there for 2 days to fix it. This kind of scenario happens all the time. All that would be logged in Quipli in Quinn. Um, and then pulled up for you where you log in and you're seeing a short list of all the top customers that you and your team need to go re-engage because they've dropped off in one way or another. So this level of
Mm.
visibility has never been possible before. And with using both the integration on the communication side plus LLMs and the AI piece, you should never lose another customer again without knowing it.
You should at least know, right? I think, if you ask a rental company listening today, who are your top 5 customers, you could probably answer that question. If I said, okay, who are your top 50 customers? Could you tell me right now? Could you get 40 of them? And I think the reality is it's hard to keep track. We were talking to a multi-location group recently on a legacy rental software, from the 1980s, and they have 30 to 40,000 customer records in their system. Let's just say half of those are dormant. You know, of the 20,000, how do you rank those? How do you know who is potentially churning? How do you know who is a potential upsell, right? Because you could have a person just poring over spreadsheets every day and answering that question, right? AI is not smarter than that person, but AI doesn't sleep and it continues to do that job, right? So I think for a rental company, like the examples, it's 2 things. It's the churn prediction. So you're looking at like this guy does this certain behavior and it changed. That should be flagged. It's also identifying high opportunity customers, right? They're doing certain behavior that indicates that they're on a bigger project or there's a much bigger rental opportunity or rental need that you're not addressing, right? So it's doing both of those things. Again, surfacing your team, you're still calling the customer, you still have the relationship. The purpose of Quinn is to spend less time in the software, more time with your customers, but it's doing work in your business that you never had really time to do, right? So that's a third agent you talked here about is the customer analyst looking at potential churn and then also potential upsell customers.
Well, and just think about, 20 to 40,000 customer records. That's a lot of data to manage for one human, right?
Yeah.
Even if you had a full-time staff member handling that, the amount of analysis that would have to be done on a human basis is pretty significant. And then the data changes, right? It doesn't stay stagnant. So it has to be always on. This is one fantastic use case that I think we think AI is like perfect for, and that gives your team the ammunition to go out and actually do what rental is all about, which is building relationships.
If you had to give me one more agent, I know there's a lot in there. Quinn has been under the hood, undercover for a long time, been building, and it's now public. The prospecting agent, or give me another agent, final agent that you're excited about that's already live within Quinn today.
Yeah, I think the prospecting agent is really, really interesting. These the challenge has been with helping rental shops grow is finding the right opportunities to sort of deploy a outside sales team to, right? With Quinn's prospecting capabilities, you can now set these alerts within your target area that you're operating in. Quinn is going to constantly monitor your local area for construction permits, um, things like new construction, all the way to residential versus commercial, HVAC, demolition, um, road work, right? Government contracts, all these really important job sites and construction sites that you may not find out about until months and months later. And United Rentals or Sunbelt's already got the contract, right? Quinn is taking that one step ahead, and it's your always on partner looking for those opportunities. Whether you log into the software or not, Quinn is out there deployed, working to make sure that we're finding prospects, prospective job sites. You can go then ask Quinn to do research on the contractor, find out information, other types of permits that maybe they've pulled, different projects that they work on, and create these lead lists, right, for your team to go out and work. Um, this has really not really been possible to scale either up until now. Every municipality, local government, city does their data a little bit differently, and makes it really, really hard for a lot of the companies to actually get access to this information if you can even find it. So Quinn's got a secret sauce here with the prospecting, be able to fill the pipeline constantly without you as a user having to prompt it, always looking for new opportunities for you to expand your business into more contractors and also more job sites that you may have missed just driving around looking for construction permits.
Yeah, so that's a prospecting agent, right? And what we're talking about is permits pulled instantaneously when it hits public domain. The Quinn agent scrapes that and it sends you that lead. And it filters out the ones that aren't fit based on the size of the project or the area. But it'll give you the contractor information. It'll give you directions to the job site. It'll tell you the estimated rental needs based on that sort of projects, and it'll match what you have availability wise. So again, that's the example of surfacing new leads for a rental company, right? That's the prospecting agent, right? As you kind of take a step back, right? There's more here. We're not going to hold the whole episode going through every single feature or agent, but we talked about four agents: the voice agent, the missed rental agent, customer analyst agent, the prospecting agent. All of those are focused on growing revenue for rental companies, right? Because we talked to a lot of rental companies. Number one thing that comes up, they want to grow revenue in 2026, right? And it's been a challenging year. It's been net positive, net up is what we expect for this year, but it's hard and you got to execute better this year. And Quinn is designed as AI using agents to drive revenue, right? And there's a lot more there. Um, One more thing I want to ask about is I think one of the surprises that we found, right, is the underlying data we can now have access to from a comms perspective, right? Because a lot of rental companies use their rental software, which is very important. You have utilization and reporting, and you can make a lot of great decisions off of your ERP rental software data. That's a must-have. What we found, and a lot of rental companies know intuitively, is there's a lot of great data that's happening off of your rental software: phone calls, emails, text, job site visits. Talk to me about this new data that we're capturing and how that can be used to make better decisions for building a rental company.
Yeah, I mean, up until really the last several years, it's not actually been possible to even like have this kind of conversation, which I think is really exciting. I think most folks listening to this would agree that the rental data inside of the ERP is only one side of the equation and maybe less than 50%, significance. You have this whole other part of rental, which is what happens in,
The
uh,
real world.
you're right, real world, what happens on phone calls, what happens when someone's just walking into the store to the counter, what's happening as you're driving down the road on a phone call, sending a text message in an email. These pieces of data and I should say maybe conversations that happen have not historically had an easy way to get into one centralized system. Everybody's using their own phone. You have information just kind of out there on legal pads and maybe a spreadsheet that your team updates. But without a central place to store all this communication data, that information never really gets used effectively. And so um, without making more work, right? Which has been a big part of how we're thinking about building Quinn and being intentional with integration, not rip and replace, but layered on top of what you're already using. We store phone calls, we store text messages, we store emails, voice memos, notes, all these um, y- pieces of information that have been, historically in someone's head. Why is that important? Because you need the context of the relationship to give Quinn and give the AI the hidden piece of all of your relationships to be able to proactively pull out when a customer is at risk for churning and when there's an upsell opportunity. And so, an example of this, right, is integrate your phone system with Quinn. You're going to immediately see when you log in all of your conversation threads. You're going to see who's calling from which company, how many orders they've had with you, what their lifetime value is, a summary overview of that account, right? So how long they've been with you, what's their latest sentiment, what are some opportunities that the conversation analyst has identified that your team may want to capitalize on with this uh, customer. And so all that is now, because AI is so great at taking unstructured data that doesn't really make a lot of sense and isn't in a nice formatted spreadsheet. You take all that and actually give it structure so that your team can improve every single relationship that you have with your customers, and it doesn't require any extra work from their end. You're just partnering with the AI to give your team a level of visibility and insight that they really haven't had before. And so we're seeing, the benefits of that by it's reminding sales people to follow up with an opportunity that maybe a customer may have casually mentioned in passing, 3 months later that they have another project coming up, or if there's an issue with a customer, right, being able to flag that, and maybe we need to look at giving them some sort of special pricing, right? It's giving this level of insight and recommendation that really hasn't been possible before. And another sort of use case here is, with labor and sort of turnover in rental shops. Oftentimes, you have really great salespeople that maybe they leave for whatever reason or another, and they're taking all this institutional knowledge and their relationships and the contacts that they have with them when they leave, right? Well, if you had a system that logs all of that and keeps all of that in one space without relying on, humans to keep the CRM updated or create notes, it helps continuity from a hiring perspective. When you bring on new team members, you sort of pick up right where their, predecessor left off.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that will be exciting to see as we go forward is access to this new level of data, particularly customer conversation data in a systematic way, tied with your rental software data, all in one place. It'd be a lot of available insights there. We're excited about. Just a couple final questions. If you're a rental company right now thinking about agents, why now? Why do I need to move on this today? Why can I afford not to wait?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the change is already here. Based on Quipli's own survey data, 83% of rental operators are grappling with labor shortages. And we've seen this um, you know, play out. I hear this all the time, right? If you are playing catch up in your rental shop with these labor shortages, you are going to be beat by a competitor that has already solved and augmented the problem with AI. Um, yeah, there's a huge sort of like adoption gap. I think part of part of where the industry is going to have to really sit with this, and 2026, I think, is the year where we bridge that adoption gap. But you have all of your systems working in the disjointed ways, and the integration piece is going to be more and more and more important. And I think this is probably the year where a lot of rental shops will get on board with having one unified space to run their entire operation. The the labor shortages paired with how fast things are moving on the AI space with rental companies that have already sort of embraced this creates, a really clear paradox between rental companies that are using AI and ones that aren't. Unfortunately, if you refuse to at least try it um, and implement into your business, you run the big risk of either a national player or a native AI rental startup that will come in and absolutely crush you if you're not careful. So the
Yeah.
time is now to move on this, and you don't have to marry, a huge organizational transformation. You can tiptoe into this just by starting to encourage your team to just try new tools every day, try different ways of getting to the same outcome. And then, looking at software programs like Quinn, which Quinn is the only, vertical AI for equipment rental on the market designed to generate more revenue so that you don't have a lot of options and competitors there to look at. But pulling in tools to augment your process doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rip and replace everything in your business. You can tiptoe your way into it, but you have to start somewhere, and this is the year to do it.
And everything we talked about today, every feature, every agent with Quinn is not science fiction. It is live today with rental companies all across the US and Canada. And that's just going to continue to expand, right? So this is not hypotheticals. You have to ask yourself if your competitor down the street is using agents to drive revenue, how do you feel about that? Are you at a competitive disadvantage? I would say yes. We're seeing it in a lot of other industries. We could talk about that separately at a separate time, but this is here to stay. It's real, and it's exciting for the companies that embrace it. So if you want to learn more about Quinn, right, go to getquinn QUINN.ai. Evan and myself will be at the ARA show demoing Quinn and showing it to folks at the ARA show March 2nd in Orlando, Florida. The feedback we've gotten even yesterday, right? The guy said, "This is a dream come true. This is a game changer," right? And we believe it's that powerful. So, final question, Evan, for you: what's your personal favorite agent that is live today, or even one that's coming up in the future? Which one that you get the most excited about?
I'm really really excited about this new agent that hasn't come out yet, but will be coming out in the future. A competitive monitoring agent where you can type in all of your local competitors in your market, um, and Quinn is going to keep tabs on them. So Quinn's going to tell you if they've opened another location, if they're running a sale, if they've expanded their fleet, if they've discounted their pricing's available online. Um, these types of insights, aren't really possible to do at a level of consistency and scale right now without maybe one or two full-time hires. And so I'm really excited about that. I think, the whole reason why we are building this type of technology is because we want to empower the independent players to build a really great big business. Um, the big, Fortune 500 publicly traded large national players, they have technology like this. So bringing something like this to market to, a rental shop that's doing $1 million a year is going to be really like materially. impactful. And I'm excited to sort of see us change a lot of businesses and a lot of lives with this technology.
Yeah, and I think actually this may be the first time that the independents may be ahead of the nationals because they've United came out with their AI feature for service and repair, and it's effectively like a digital, technical book. If you could scan something, it could pull up, instructions how to fix it. That's not an agent, right? That's not agents driving revenue, and this may be the first opportunity for independents to pull ahead on technology in the space. So very exciting stuff ahead on Quinn. It's the year of agents and agents to grow revenue for equipment rental companies. So thanks, Evan, for sharing everything on Quinn. The future is bright.
Thanks, Kyle.